You shouldn't have fucked with me. I'm bigger than you. I'm stronger than you.
When it comes to Reacher Season 3, there's a lot going on, so let's break it down. Especially that bold decision the showrunners made by cutting out a particular book character, one that many fans expected to show up. Honestly, it turned out to be the right call, even though it might have surprised longtime readers. But before we dive into that, let's talk about everything that went down this season. At first, people thought Reacher was already a beast of a guy, right? But then, this season shows us that no matter how big or bad you are, there's always someone even bigger waiting in the wings. Cue huge dudes battling even huger dudes. Add betrayal, an absolutely chilling villain, and some surprisingly emotional moments. This season gave us a lot. So the third season is based on Lee Child's novel Persuader, but the show doesn't stick strictly to the book. In fact, there are some significant changes, especially toward the end, which we'll get into later. The story kicks off with Reacher being his usual no-nonsense self, stepping in to stop what looks like a kidnapping. Turns out, the kid he rescues is the son of a local drug kingpin, or at least, that's what we're led to believe. That said, now let's talk about one of the bold choices Season 3 made, cutting out a key character from one of the most beloved books in the series. Fans of the novel Persuader probably noticed right away that someone was missing: Elizabeth Beck, the wife of Zachary Beck. In the show, Beck's son Richard tells Reacher that his mom passed away when he was little, but in the book, she's very much alive and part of the shady business as Reacher works his way up through Beck's security team to get to the big bad, Xavier Quinn. Now, Elizabeth doesn't have a huge role in the book, but she's a constant presence. She's basically a prisoner in her own home, just like the rest of the Beck family. Reacher gets to know her and learns about her isolated and pretty tragic life, including being mistreated by Beck's massive bodyguard, Polly, who, by the way, is played by a literal giant Olivia Richtor in the show. By cutting her from the series, the writers sidestepped a potentially uncomfortable subplot and avoided showing yet another woman being roughed up on screen. What's interesting is that in the book, Elizabeth is the one who discovers Reacher is undercover. Instead of turning him in, she actually asks for his help to get her family out of the mess her husband's made. They even team up in a few moments, which helps Reacher move forward with his mission. But in the series, those beats are reworked and handed to Richard, and honestly, it works better. Replacing Elizabeth with Richard's character added some real emotional weight to the season. The bond between Reacher and Richard becomes one of the season's most heartfelt arcs. Take that scene where they go shopping for Beck's birthday gift, a vintage cap gun, and it sparks this rare moment of connection between father and son. It's probably the first time in years they've truly seen eye to eye. Plus, we get a dose of Reacher's dry humor when he jokingly declares any ice cream flavor other than chocolate or vanilla is basically blasphemy. It's a small thing, but it shows how Ritchson's Reacher is not just a stoic tough guy, he's got personality, which is part of what makes the show so fun. In the book, Beck comes off as more of a jerk, like an emotionally checked-out husband. That angle wouldn't have worked as well in the show, especially with the direction they took. By making him a grieving widower instead, it added depth and made his strained relationship with Richard way more believable. Instead of just being a villain, Beck becomes a complicated father trying to protect his son in his own flawed way. That emotional layer? It's something the book doesn't really tap into. The dynamic between Reacher and Richard also plays a role in mending Richard's relationship with his dad. Reacher gives the kid some solid advice, and it's clear the big guy has a soft spot for mentoring, even if he pretends he's all about lone wolf life. And this whole mentor theme runs deep in Season 3, especially with the story around Dominique Cole, Reacher's former protege whose death still haunts him. Of course, Elizabeth Beck wasn't the only change from the book. Polly's character is tweaked too. He's a composite of Paul Massarella from the novel, but redesigned to be more of a physical match for Reacher. Frances Neagley, who doesn't appear in Persuader at all, is added in the series, probably to set up her own spin-off down the line. But her role this season fits in nicely with the idea of Reacher guiding others. And speaking of intensity, enter Polly, Beck's absolutely massive bodyguard. Played by Olivia Richtor, this guy makes Reacher look small, which is saying something. The moment they arm wrestle, you just know they're headed for a serious showdown. It's hilarious and oddly satisfying watching these two human tanks try to out-alpha each other. You kinda get the sense that the set needed reinforcement just to handle their scenes. Episode 7 ends with a tense lead-up to the final confrontation. Reacher, DEA agent Susan Duffy, and the ATF team up to bust Quinn's weapons deal with the Russians. But, surprise, Reacher realizes it's a trap. The real action is happening at Beck's birthday party, because apparently nothing says happy birthday like gunfire and betrayal. After a chaotic shootout, the crew makes it back to Beck's place to save Richard and stop Quinn once and for all. This is where everything hits the fan. We finally get the long-awaited Reacher vs. Polly face-off, and it lives up to the hype. These two crash through rooms, go toe-to-toe in hallways, and basically wreck every square foot of Beck's estate. It's not just about brute strength either. This fight actually shows us Reacher at his most vulnerable. Polly's the first person who really puts him on the back foot, and for a minute, you're wondering how he's going to make it out. But Reacher proves once again that his brain is just as deadly as his fists. He tricks Polly by jamming a massive machine gun, which backfires when Polly tries to shoot. It's a great reminder that while Reacher might look like he was built in a lab for smashing skulls, he's also incredibly clever. That mix of brains and brawn has always been what makes his character work so well. There's even a little detail during their fight that you might miss on the first watch. Reacher slyly pulls a bullet from Polly's belt and jams it into the barrel, setting up the payoff later when the gun misfires. It's a small moment, but it's the kind of thing fans love to spot on rewatch. Now, in the Persuader book, that showdown plays out a little differently. Reacher actually holds his own against Polly and ends up shooting him 12 times at the edge of a cliff. But the show clearly wanted to do something fresh and avoid repeating the same ending they used with Quinn. Plus, dragging out the fight keeps you guessing, especially if you've read the book. You're left wondering if Reacher's going to survive, which adds real tension. While all this is going on, the show also cuts back and forth between Reacher's fight and the rest of the team trying to stop the weapons sale. It's well-paced, with the action building up on both fronts. And we get a nice little surprise return. Neagley comes back. She's been a fan favorite since the first season, and while she's not in every episode this time, she still gets some killer moments. Good news, Amazon's already working on a Neagley spin-off, which is awesome because it'll give her more room to shine and free up the Reacher series for more focused storytelling. All in all, the season closes with a bang, literally and emotionally. We see Reacher at his most human, his most brutal, and somehow also his most charming. The decision to cut out a controversial character from the book might have ruffled a few feathers, but it actually helped tighten the story. By focusing on the core conflict between Reacher and Quinn, the show keeps things personal and intense. And that's kind of what Reacher does best. It balances mystery, muscle, and meaningful character growth in a way that keeps us all coming back. Season 3 took risks, and for the most part, they really paid off. And that's a wrap for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.